I've always been a unique person, you know what I mean? Sort of laid back in a way, but very adamant and very passionate about what I believe. I think a lot of times that sort of throws people off because they don't expect me to have the mindset or the process of thought that I do. And so when you come in to watch my channel, you may hear a myriad of thoughts and ideas that could be different from others. What I want you to do is just sit back, like, share, and subscribe. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way, helping you to make it through another day. Yeah, everything you need to know that you never knew, that you need to know. Black art perspective.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Lockhart Perspective. I am Felicia Lockhart, and I'm very happy to have you here with me this evening. Today, we're going to look at, and here's what we're having. It's actually like a smorgasbord of one particular topic, and that is the blood as well as the DNA of man. You know, it looks like since millennia, the beginning of time, actually, there's been an argument or a fight for the blood. And so today I want to just sort of throw out a few scriptures and throw out a few topics. We're even going to look at a couple of videos that take us into the scientific place of the blood and the importance of it, all the way down to the very marrow of things. You know, the marrow. There's even a passage that says that a disrespectful wife, and I'm paraphrasing here, is as rotten as to the husband's bones. You know, when she's an embarrassment to him. That passage really is talking about the marrow down to where his very life is. And as we go through some of these slides that we have here tonight, we're going to have a lot to talk about. So I want to welcome you to Sunday dinner. Yes, we are talking about the mystery, and the mystery is really not a mystery. It really is, why are they so interested, and why are there so many different things that we can look at through time and through biblical pieces. And even, we're also going to look at I even want to look at the elements because, you know, being a daughter of a Baptist preacher, I was trained on working with the elements of when we used to take, what is it, communion. We used to do communion, but we had to be a certain way before we were able to do the communion. We had to go through a little class. We had to make sure that we had on all white. We had to have on our white gloves. Our head had to be covered. There were so many ceremonial things that we had to do. And if you did not have that specific training, you could not work with the quote unquote elements. Well, we're even going to look at that. And here's the deal. This is not just where I say all things go. That's not what this is. Today, we are looking at it and we're just having conversations. We're pinpointing everything from, you know, there's a passage where you remember Yah even said, you know what? Yeah, I know about you. And I'm paraphrasing, you know, I know about y'all who eat my people as they devour, as if you were devouring bread. I'm looking at even cannibalism because there is something that is in the life of the blood. The life is actually in the blood. So before we get started, it's been a minute since I've seen you guys. So I want to say hello to some people. Those of you who have left comments, I want to make sure that I say hello to if you're still here. I want to say hi to Daryl Long, who says, let's go. David Bruce says, good evening, Miss Felicia, and good evening to you too, Sir Bruce. I see my sister Betty R. Good afternoon, everybody, she says, as well as my sister Black Spring with Autumn. Hi, Dr. Lockhart. You look stunning on this day. Thank you, Princess. And then there's also good evening, everybody. Sakaif too. Good evening to you as well. So I think the first place that I really want to start is let's start at the birth. I want to talk about the cord and how from the beginning of time, there's always been this argument over the umbilicus and why now you see us cutting the umbilical cord. There are even times where they think it's a ceremony where dads can come in and he can cut the cord. But did you know that there were actually times where they did not cut the cord? And as recently as a few years ago, there were some studies that talked about why it's important to keep the cord and the mother attached. That's right, to keep the cord and the mother attached. I found some things. So I want us to go on ahead and look at one of the things that we're going to talk about today first. All right, we're going here. And I want you guys to look at this. This is amazing. 4 reasons to consider delayed cord clamping. We're talking about the blood. We're talking about the blood. And remember, in the marrow is the blood, and that the life is in the blood. We're even going to look at the scripture where the Most High was talking to Cain. He's like, where is your brother? I don't know. I don't know. Really? Well, his blood is crying out from the ground. So we're going to look at that. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to give you guys the whole screen as I often like to, so that way you guys can see it and read along with me. I'm going to pot it up just a bit, just so that you can see it a little bit more. All right. Here are some reasons why they are saying there are some benefits to not clamping off that cord. Number 1 says it decreases the risk of anemia. It says for the full-term babies, delayed cord clamping increases the baby's blood volume and iron stores. How many of you know there are babies that are born with depleted iron? Because mom may have not been that healthy, but what it's saying is by keeping the baby connected to mom, it actually does help the blood volume and the iron stores. Barnes, who's one of the doctors that they are referencing here, the young lady, she's actually an MD, Courtney Barnes, says that because iron is poorly transferred into breast milk, this extra iron helps to prevent anemia. It's very important. Anemia, of course, as we know, is a condition that's characterized by low red blood cells volume. An increased red blood cell count can lead to better development as the babies grow. Now, as we read these, I am going to interject as we see it, because I want to make sure that we are talking about my points. So I'm going to make my points. David Bruce says the female symbol is the alchemical symbol for copper. The male symbol is the symbol for iron. Oh, very good, David Bruce. Black Spring says, I'm glad I'm here. Well, I'm glad you're here too, Princess. All right, so I'm going to pop on here just a quick second and say, yeah, so we do understand how important it is for the baby and the mom to stay connected. See, here's the thing, and this is just a side, just a little caveat to what I'm just saying. Here's the thing. As long as mothers and babies, as mothers have been producing and, having birth and everything, do you realize that from that very time frame, they have actually prevented some of this closeness? You go from having the baby, and then the baby gets the cord cut. Once the cord is cut, after that, the baby is whittled off and taken into another room. Well, if the cord is not cut, the mother and the baby are still technically connected, right? So if the mother and the baby are still connected, then that means there's some power in that, right? But you take the baby, you cut the cord, and then after you cut the cord, the mom is still in one part of the house or the hospital, and the baby is in another part of the hospital. And then the baby is gone. So that brings an automatic disconnection already, right? All right, so now let's just go ahead and finish this. We'll go ahead and go back to the full screen so that we can finish reading. It says the benefits are even greater for preterm babies. Babies born prematurely, it's telling us, are at risk for serious health problems. An extra boost of the healthy blood from the umbilical cord can help lower that risk. According to Barnes, delayed cord clamping in preterm babies has been shown to decrease the number of needed blood transfusions and reduce the risk of necrotizing enterocolitis, a severe complication involving the intestines of a preterm baby, and the interventricular hemorrhage, a bleed in the baby's brain that can cause lifelong neurological problems. Are you guys seeing where I'm going here? I hope so, because what I'm trying to show you is there's been such an altering in the blood from the very inception, and a reason for detaching you from the actual well, or the spring of life, as it were. We are looking at this from that perspective. And that's really what I want to talk about. Now, it also says that it can also be performed with a C-section because cord clamping can take place after the placenta has been removed from the mother's uterus. There's no added risk to the mother or the child to delay the cord clamping after a cesarean birth. Since the operating room, and this is what Barnes is saying, are often quite chilly, special attention needs to be paid to ensure that the baby stay warm. And they also say here in number 4 is that a very safe procedure. There are very few risks associated with delayed cord clamping for healthy mothers and babies. The main risk to delayed cord clamping, which is an important thing to consider, especially as we've depleted mankind to a point where we are all needed. We have some type of drug that they got all of us on, and we're going to talk about that too. We're not going to shy away from any of this, but I do want to say they say here that the main risk to delayed cord clamping is that of the increased blood volume may result in jaundice. But Barnes says, because all babies are monitored for jaundice, this is a complication that we would be able to detect. Treatment for jaundice involves placing the baby under a light that helps break down excess bilirubin in the blood. Now, it does have here who should avoid it, and you can read it down below in the description. The story is ending here, but here, let's just take this little moment to give it to you. It says there are some reasons that delayed clamping should be avoided. For example, in women with abnormal placentas, women experiencing a hemorrhage, or babies who are born needing immediate medical care, delayed cord clamping is not recommended. Well, that makes sense, right? In these particular cases. And in these cases, doctors will clamp the cord immediately to focus on the health of the mother and the child, which in our day and age does make a lot of sense. The top of this says to choosing to delay the clamping of the umbilical cord after giving birth can give a newborn baby's health a boost. Do you realize the reason why they wouldn't want to do this? The reason why they would not want to do this, and the reason why you do not find a lot of hospitals that are opting to give this opportunity to a mother is because they've been playing God for a long time. And as we've been dumbed down as sheeple, as we've been dumbed down listening to the doctors as we go along the way, from midwifery, which was very important at one time, even to have some women have their babies right there in the bathtub back in the day. And even some now decide that they do want to use a doula. And so there are some benefits to all of the stuff that Yah has. But what we've done is literally put the doctors and put other people in the place of Yah, because we want to just go along to get along. And so we want to do that. Sometimes I even mentioned this before, maybe a year ago, where we were talking about how people are now scheduling the doctor's vacation around a C-section. No, you don't go to the hospital anymore and take care of the baby and have the baby when the baby says, knock, knock, I'm coming. No, that's not how that's done anymore. The way that it's done now is knock, knock, the doctor needs a vacation. Knock, knock, the doctor needs to take and get enough money in this particular month. So they're going to try to schedule as many of these babies as they can. And there is a lot of problems, and it does affect the blood. There are a load of children who are born with bilirubin, who are born with neurological issues and other problems. Some of those things, I remember I had a law professor, one of my law professors was saying back a long time ago, do you think that all of these babies born with all of these problems is natural? He goes, no, it's not. It's malpractice. That's what my teacher was saying. It's malpractice because things are going on when the baby is born and the mother doesn't know. She's knocked out. The father doesn't know. He doesn't even want to be in the room. But he was a very, very funny guy, but he meant that. And he was very honest. So we are opting to put our lives and our children's lives in the hands of people who did not create us. And I'm so appreciative of Dr. Barnes, Courtney Barnes, for talking about this particular topic as we are looking at the mysteries of the blood, as we're looking at why they want to fight for the blood. Do you realize there was a video? Let's first of all, because I'm so itching to get over here and show you this video. It's just I really want to let you see it. But here, I want to go to another thing. I want to look at what is the blood. I want to look at what is the blood, something that is so elementary, because people say, well, it's the blood. Blood is blood. Well, okay, well, all right, fine. That's cool. You can believe it's just the blood. I get it. But there is power in the blood. Did you know that? Did you know that there is power in the blood? You remember that when you were back in a regular church, you used to sing those songs. His blood still works. The blood of the Lamb still works. We're even going to dig into that. We're even going to look at the blood as it relates to our belief system. Because if you guys remember, let's just talk regular, okay? We're just chilling here. We're just going to chill. Do you remember there are passages in the Old Testament where the Father told us not to have anything to do with any blood, not to take in any blood, not to eat any blood? Remember those passages? You're not even supposed to eat your meat rare, right? Because there are a lot of things that you can get from blood. Why do you think people are really into getting it? I'm going to just leave that right there. Why do you think people are really into just needing it? Why do you think that there are cosmetics companies that want you to look? Ronnie and I were just talking about this, that want you to try to look as young as you can. And so they put different things that have to do with the life inside of their cosmetic products. I remember, I believe it was Chanel. I know it was Chanel back years ago, had a big argument about a product that they put inside of one of their skincare. And what it did is it made the skin look very young and velvety. And over time, you would look younger and younger. But don't you know, as long as I worked in cosmetics, I remember people that stopped using the product and they went on to something else, and then their skin looked like it was walking dead because they were using things that ought not be. We're going to talk about this, you guys. It's important to understand it. So, you know what? Maybe in 2 weeks from now, maybe a little bit less, you may have a conversation and have to deal with the blood. Maybe you're going to the doctors and you're going to have to deal with the blood. You're going to have to look at, should you take in the blood? You know, some of the times we used to laugh at some of the other religions because they don't even want to go take other blood. Well, did you realize that there's still some DNA in that blood? So you're taking on the traits of another person? Yeah. And I tell you, right hand, I'm guilty. My blood pressure dropped to 52/13. I was at one little hospital and they had to rush me. This was several years ago. They had to rush me to another hospital and I was in and out and in and out. 52/13. And I had no, I mean, they stopped talking to me. I was like, what's going on? Nobody said anything. All I remember was my eyes went dark. Then when I woke up, I was in another hospital altogether. What do you think they had to do to me to get me back? Yeah. So that troubled me for a long time. Would I willingly do it now? I don't think so. Not knowing what I know now, not knowing what I've read now. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. But we are naive a lot of times when we go into these things. So hopefully, just this little brief conversation that we're having, this is nothing heavy. It's just a standard conversation, sister to sister, sister to brother. That's it. Just a conversation. I want to take a look at one of these videos that we have here because there are some, I want to talk about the DNA, the structure of the DNA. I also want to take a quick peek, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to shroud the volume here, and we are going to look at the Queen Ignites the Windsor Castle, the Jubilee Beacon. Right before we go into looking at the DNA, I want you guys to look at this. Let me go on ahead and give this video to you. The links will be down below in the description, but I want you guys to see this. It's very important. Not going to have any volume. So I want you guys to look. It was very important that they showed this. Let me see if you can see this. Yeah. Let me open it up for you a little bit more. Look at what's on the ground very carefully, and I'll give you the whole screen. Watch her. What does it look like? And where's it going? Looked just like an altered DNA, didn't it? It didn't look like the regular DNA, did it? And it looked like it went to a life tree, a tree of life, the DNA that goes to the tree of life. Why would they do that? Is it important or no? May not be important, right? Yeah. I might just be tripping. Yeah. I might be tripping, but it was very important. So now we're going to look at the actual DNA. I want to talk about the DNA, and these here, the video that you're about to see is actually a Creative Commons piece. And so it is being used. They allow you to use it so that everybody can see this. So let me go ahead and let you guys watch this because we're talking about the importance of the blood, the mystery of it. Why is there an argument about it? Why are they willing to alter it? Why is it being altered? Because whether we want to talk about it or not, it is. It's being altered. Okay. So let's go ahead and get a load of this.
DNA is the instruction manual for how to build life. From microbes to plants to human beings, it defines us all. The complete set of instructions encoded in an organism's DNA is called its genome and is passed from parent to offspring during reproduction. Information is stored in DNA using just 4 types of molecule which occur in pairs. There are billions of these pairs, organized in a double helix structure that is both strong and compact. These pairs also allow each strand to act as a backup for the other, a remarkably efficient way to safeguard this precious genetic information. DNA folds into paired packages called chromosomes that are stored in the nucleus of the cell. Different species have different numbers of chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs. Chromosomes contain many genes. A gene is a section of DNA that holds the instructions for a protein. Proteins are essential for life and perform a huge variety of jobs, from controlling the function of a single cell to determining the shape of a whole organism. Within a species, each organism has very similar DNA. In human beings, the difference between one person and another is a fraction of 1%. But it's what makes us individuals, giving us different facial features, hair color, and height. The uniqueness of our DNA can be used like a fingerprint to identify us with an extraordinary degree of accuracy. By reading DNA, scientists have discovered that we share sequences not just with our own species, but with every other living thing on Earth. Chimpanzees, one of our closest living relatives, share about 96% of our DNA. But we also have genes in common with fish, plants, and bacteria. Powerful evidence that all life came from a single universal ancestor billions of years ago. We haven't just learned to read the instruction manual for life, we can rewrite it as well. People have been manipulating DNA since before we knew it existed, selectively breeding plants and animals to bring out desirable traits. Now, genetic engineering allows us to directly alter DNA in a lab, creating new varieties of life. From plants that can resist disease or drought, to bacteria that can mass-produce life-saving hormones. But we don't yet know what all of DNA does. Lengthy sequences make no proteins at all, and have perhaps mistakenly been labeled junk. Some people are worried about these gaps in our knowledge and unforeseen problems they believe genetically modified organisms may cause. What's clear is that the instruction manual for life is more subtle, elegant, and complex than we could have possibly imagined. DNA has revealed many of its secrets, but we still have much to learn.
Oops, it's me. So you know it's me. Sorry about that, y'all. But you guys were saying some really important things there. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. Thank you, Sarah Brown. How are you? We name Ronnie. Everybody, sound. I hope there's sound now. Thank you, guys. It wouldn't be me if I wouldn't jack up at least once, but I got to stop it. Anyway, here's what I was going to say. You guys were all making comments about it. Somebody, I think it was Ronnie, that said, oh, what is that third strand? And then David Bruce said, I think the third strand represents a merger with technology. Could be. But then I also know that family, as well as a couple of other major families, do not allow any other bloodline to come inside of their bloodline because their bloodline has to stay a certain way for a specific reason. And so even back when we look at, and again, this is just a casual conversation, even when we look back at the sons of men, where they said, that right around the time where there was the flood, that it was because of the merger with, oh, here's Ronnie. The merger of all this other stuff. Oops. Hold on, let me put on some headphones. Talk, Ronnie. I'll put on headphones.
Can you hear me? Yeah, you're muted.
I know I can't find them because the kids took them.
Okay.
But David Bruce just said the blue bloods. Yes, the blue bloods and a whole bunch of other stuff. But Ronnie, what I was talking about specifically was the fact that, yes, the blood has been tampered with for a long time. But I really want to bring the point to home that right now it's being a mess. It's being messed with even more. And now there are like loads of people who've actually given themselves over to have it tampered with. But there's a purpose for the blood. There's a purpose for it. And here's the thing. When I look back and I started reading about the different passages where we're not supposed to orally eat any blood or, make sure that the meat is completely cooked. And here in a week or so, we're going to be making sure, maybe less than that, we're going to be making sure that we burn the meat almost till it's darn near burn, right? Because it doesn't need to have any of that in it. But my point is, there are so many things that are out right now that are altering our bloodlines. And when I say our, I mean humanity, because for those of us who know, we're opting not to do certain things. But there's been a wrestle, hasn't it, Army? Hasn't there been like an arm wrestle, Ronnie, over over humanity's bloodline? And why do you think that is?
Like you said, there's power in the blood. The blood is the life, is the life force. So they want something. They're trying to find a back door instead of going the appropriate route or the set apart route. They're trying to find an alternative route, and they're seeing something. They're accomplishing something. To what degree, and to what ends? Miss Felicia, you're muted.
Oops. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start reading the scriptures, and I'm not going to do anything in any sequence. I'm just going to start clicking them, and then we're just going to read them, and then we can just chat about them, because I think that a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is so concerning to me. And here's, you and I were talking, and before we got on the air, I was saying, gosh, I've just lost so many people here over the last couple of years, people that I've known for 20 years, people that I've known for a long time. And it's like, gee whiz, when I find out certain things that they elected to do themselves, it just really, I'm like, riddle me this. Why are they doing these things? Why don't they hear you? Why don't they, hey, Shaq, why don't they hear us? Why don't they, I don't get it. I just don't get it, that there are people who are literally allegedly children of the Most High, and they're literally walking into this stuff willfully. So I'm just going to look at a couple of scriptures. I think the first one that I want to look at is Leviticus 17, and I'm going to share the screen for that one. So it's Leviticus 17. I do want to take a glance at that, and then we can just chat about it. And if you want to dig into it, you can. We're just going to talk about it. Okay, so it's Leviticus 17, verse 11. I wonder, should I start at 10? Let's start at 10. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Yasharal, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. Here's verse 11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you. Okay, so there, I'm going to stop there, because the second, which is part B, I should do part B. I'm going to go ahead and do part B and stop at 12. And I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. That you see, there's the connection that I've been talking about over the past couple of years, which is the soul. They were fighting for the soul of America. They're fighting for the soul. And then this passage here. What is your take on this passage, Ronnie, or what would you like to share on it?
It's just as far as let me go back to it, because I was looking up, I was researching some stuff while speaking. Well, as far as eating any manner of blood, so you have to understand that if he's telling you specifically not to this, then that lets you know that at large, the cultures surrounding this people group were doing these types of things, because he's telling his specific house, which is Yasharal, to be set apart and to be, to look different to be unlike every other people that is around. So apparently this was a thing that was going on even back then, and we can see all the way up until now it's still continuing on, and he's letting you know, hey, this is an abomination, and we need to be set apart. So it definitely goes deeper. It goes way deeper than this, because you have to understand the different types of offerings. When I say offerings, I mean by that you have to understand the different types of sacrifices that people offer unto their gods. And no matter what God sacrifice that you offer, um, there is a yeah, that's what I wanted you to pull up. There is an aspect of, I don't know, bloodletting, or sacrificial blood being spilled or being sprinkled or what have you, in not just the temple at Jerusalem, or any god, virgin's blood, different types of blood. But there's different types of offerings, different types of sacrifices. You have like a peace offering, you have a burnt offering, nature, and then honing in offerings, you have to understand types of animals are being sacrificed. So if you look at all, no, scroll down a little bit. Those are what you can buy, but scroll a little bit. Scroll down. All those, what is that? That's the tree of life. It's an ancient concept, but nonetheless, what's happening with these sacrifices is there's a certain peace offering, and we'll go into scripture to look at it. The peace offering can come from the herd or can come from the flock, and you have to drain the lifeblood out of them and present that as an offering on the altar. This happens in any ancient culture's worship ceremony, worship ritual, or what have you. So that lets you know the mindset of these quote unquote whoever they are, these people that are in charge. These people that are in charge, what they think of you. They think of us as cattle. They think of us as cattle. So keep that in mind and go ahead and discuss some of that thing that you're looking at, and then I'll pull up some scripture to move forward with the aspect of what I'm talking about.
So this says here that a legend of life. It's the tree of life. It's the tree of life, Sumer, which is how he chose this to find it. But this looks exactly like what we just got through looking at. It had the helix, and it had everything. I believe it was it 3 strands in that one, right? I believe it was 3 strands that the queen had. But there is something to the blood. Now, here's what I'd like to connect right quick. I don't personally believe that we are, and I could be wrong, and you know what? Let y'all correct me. And then if anybody knows where I may be wrong, show me biblically, because we're again just having a conversation. I don't believe that we are supposed to pretend like something is the flesh that we're eating, and that something is the blood that we're partaking in, because I clearly see, and I could be wrong on this too. And I'm willing to say, hey, I can be corrected, or we can have dialogue to anybody that wants to share it intelligently and respectfully. I just look at back when we see I think it was in the book of Exodus. I know it was Exodus 20 or 24, where Moses he then sprinkled blood as a symbol. And I know that was symbolic. We can also go back to Abraham's covenant. It had something to do with blood and incense, and the big thing that went over back and forth as he lay there or whatever. I believe that was Abraham. But my point is that it is starkly different than what we do symbolically when we're a part of churchdom or Christendom, which is Catholicism, in my opinion, as you already know. And so when I look at those symbols, I look at how much it gets you so prepared, little by little, small pieces by small pieces. It gets you to accepting certain things that we should not accept. Here's the thing. I believe that once we begin to dumb down in certain areas, it makes it even easier for us to accept a little bit, because a little leaven leavens the whole lump, because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, our acceptance for things that aren't supposed to be. I even look at right now, and there's some pages that I'm going to pull up as an example of my point. There are some companies that have, let me just show it to you. I'm going to pot this down right quick, pull that down right fast, and just let you guys see it, because without seeing it, it's sort of hard to understand where I'm going. So let me let you guys see this. There is a place that they have. It says, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. No, just leave me alone, you. Swedish food companies. Let me make sure y'all can see it. Yep. Swedish food companies vegan burger that is said to taste like human flesh receives an award. Even though I know that, yeah, okay, you're doing these elements, there is a reason for them wanting you to now eat human flesh. There's a passage that we're going to look at right now, just to piggyback on what I'm saying, or land me back on what I'm saying right here. And it's talking about how, yeah, I know you guys are out there, those of you who do enmity between, my people, and how you will you devour them just like it's bread or whatnot. You devour my people like it is blood. Here it is, how like their bread. Here it is in the book of Psalms. But there are burgers now that are receiving awards because of this. So my point is, we know that it's in cosmetics. We know that now that it's in the Pepsi bottles. We know that it's inside of different foods. We know that the term natural flavorings is something that you want to run from. But my point is, there's a mystery to why they want you to take it in. And it's a mystery to them. But as we go deeper into the word, we know it ain't a mystery. They try to keep it a mystery, but everything you see on the television right now, from the movies to all of the videos that are coming out right now, there is something about cannibalism. There's something about ingesting blood. There's something about now they're just being bold with saying this person has now proclaimed to be a vampire. This person is this and this, but there's a reason for this stuff. This stuff doesn't just happen by accident. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. None of it does. It all happens because there is a purpose for it. And so what I'm saying is, we can now detect who we are based on the things that we allow. And so it is important for us to not allow certain things. And it's difficult when you have a lot of people that you're responsible for. Say you're a mom and dad and you got about 6 kids and they're all of a certain age. Well, you got to try to hone everybody in or ring everybody in. But it's to be aware of the things that are out there and the devices that are being used. And on top of the devices that are being used, look at some of the musicians and look at some of the people who are singing. Look at some of the people who are dancing. Look at some of the videos that your kids listen to. Watch them. Look, read some of the words that they're singing. They're literally talking about this kind of stuff. And so let's go right here to the book of Psalms. I want to look at this passage, because in the book of Psalms, it talks about Psalms 14:4. If you have your swords there, folks, it's Psalms 14:4. Let me pull it up for you. Make sure there it is. Okay, Psalms 14, is it 4? Yeah, I'm going to read it here, just in the Berean. Will the workers of iniquity never learn? They devour my people like bread. They refuse to call upon Yahweh. Okay, they devour my people like bread. There's another passage that's behind that one. But people see this and we just go over it. There was one back in Genesis where they talk about, yep, they just come down and they eat them just like they're nothing. Just eat the people, and they just tear their heads off and they eat their bodies. Even when you're looking at the argument or the fight between David and Goliath, who you think Goliath was? What do you think Goliath and his family's gig was? The whole town was. What do you think they did? They weren't just giants. What you think they ate? They wasn't just eating, biscuits and biscuits and some gravy. No, they were sopping up humans. So this spirit has been going and going and going and going for the longest time. This argument and this fight. But now we really do have to keep ourselves protected. Absolutely, Joy. Genesis 6. Let's go there, sis. Thank you. Let's go there. I think I have it right here. That's 4. Let's go to Genesis 6. Yep. All right. The corruption on the earth. And that's the purpose for, as we were taught, the purpose for the whole, just getting it all gone, getting rid of it all. Start it all over again. Have you ever heard anybody's argument that the flood was regional? Have you ever heard of that, Ronnie? That the flood was regional. There's some people that say the flood was regional. You ever
Hmm.
hear that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it was regional all around the planet.
Okay, so let's go. I'm going to go on ahead and read here. Now, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born to them, the sons of Yah saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as their wives, whomever they chose. Now, remember, wives does not mean they walked down the aisle and then they, jumped over the broom, or they stepped on a glass, or they did a jig, or whatever it was that they did. No, they took them as wives. They knew them. Verse 3 says, so, and I'm reading it as it's written just for the time and the continuity of the way it's written. So the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days shall be 120 years. Now, verse 4 says, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Very important point, because we were talking about the bloodline of those folks over there in Europe, and the lady that we just got through seeing with the helix going there. It says, and afterwards, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and afterwards as well, when the sons of God had relations with the daughters of men. And they bore them children who became the mighty men of old, men of renown. Verse 5 says, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was altogether evil all the time. Verse 6 says, and the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man, whom I have created, from the face of the earth, every man, every beast, and crawling creature, and bird of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them.
All
All
right,
right,
scroll
so
back
that,
up to 4. Scroll
go
back up.
ahead. Go ahead. Do it.
No, just scroll back up to 4, like 2, 3, and 4. That's the premise.
All right, go ahead.
No, just more so. If you
Read it
just
again.
Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and afterward as well. And afterward as well, when the sons of God had relations with the daughters of men, they bore them children who became the mighty men of old, men of renown. So these mighty men, these of old and men of renown, of a great name. These are like Hercules, all the demigods of the ancient mythologies. Um, Half man, half god, or what have you. With various types of endowments, strength, or uh, splendor, or beauty, or whatever, musicality, whatever it is. But yeah, the men of old, men of renown. These are all the ancient mythology heroes, if you will. But yeah, so mind you, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and this particular text illustrates that there was a flood that wiped out all humanity, all man. But apparently, some of these Nephilim made it through the flood, because it clearly states and afterward as well. So where is this bloodline? Where is this blood?
Yeah. Yeah, they're still hanging out. They're still here. And so I think that the saga, as it were, continues. And I think that's really where I'm headed in my mindset of how I'm talking about it being this mystery, being this thing that is so in our faces, and yet it's in our faces, but yet we don't get it. A lot of people don't get it. I'm glad that everybody in the chat does. It's good to be around people like you guys, and you, Ronnie, everybody that gets it. David
Can
Bruce
I
makes the point that says here, it's still afterwards, isn't it? Go ahead, Ronnie.
can I make a very point, very specific point? Why they want us, they, whoever they are, but why is it prevalent in society that and even made to look glamorous, or made to sound glamorous, with beauty products, even definitely digestion, ingestion. What and why are they forcing this into the psyche of the general populace? Why?
So why?
It is specifically to defile yourself before your creator. It is specifically to where you are defiled in the face of your creator. And it puts you in your position, but in their mind, whoever they are, in their mindset and from their perspective, it puts them in a privileged position because that's what they have done. You're the sacrifice. You are the sacrifice. And this isn't just speculation, this is all scriptural. This is all scriptural, but it's metaphorical, and this is their perception of the general population. You know, this is how they look at us. They're looking at us like cattle. Um, can I qualify what I'm saying?
Please do.
Yeah. You spoke on Genesis. Pardon me. You spoke on Exodus 24.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there now. You want me to go there now?
You can, because but you know, just giving you a heads up, this is where there was a covenant that was cut between the people that Yah took at. This is like this is the first Passover. This is the time frame. This is the Passover where the people that Yah has elected to be his people was taken out of Egypt, and now they're in the wilderness, and then they forged a covenant with their Elohim. And that covenant was solidified by the sprinkling of blood. So, and you know, of course, we're going to go down a rabbit hole, nothing major, but just to prove the point, it says, so that's the background information. So starting at verse 3, I'm just going to start at verse 3. It says, when Moshe came and told the people all the words in the ordinances of Yah, they all responded with one voice, all the words that Yah has spoken, we will do. So everyone was on one accord. They were like, yeah, I like what's going on. We agreed to this. And being that they agreed to this, you know, spiritual handshake with each other, and they forged the covenant. Moshe wrote down all the words of Yah, and early the next morning he got up and he built an altar at the base of the mountain along with 12 pillars, the 12 tribes of Yasharal. Then he sent out some young men of Yasharal, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls as peace offerings to Yah. This is very, very, very important because if you make a peace offering, like you are, you know, shaking hands, you're forging an alliance, you're making friends, if you will, you know, you're siding, you've chosen a side, and what is being sacrificed? Young bulls, cattle is being sacrificed to forge an alliance. So just, you know, jumping forward to show you my mindset, whoever that be, they are forging, they are making a, so when you make a peace offering, it's like, okay, like last will and testament, or maybe like the bucket list. You're about to perish, so you have this bucket list, and some things you want to make peace with. You know, so when you're making peace with something, you're like evening the score, if you will. You know, so this is what they're doing, and they are satisfying their God by a peace offering, and they're sacrificing cattle in doing so. Please understand. And we, to them, are that cattle. Because why would you glamorize or even advertise a tasty, you know, a nice looking tasty burger that tastes like human flesh? Why would you say that?
Why would they even do that? And you know what? And the deal is,
that's enticing.
Yeah, and I have several stories that are like that, and I just wanted to read the bullets of it. You know what I mean? That's why I just read the bullet points to show that there is a correlation and there is a purpose and there is a reason. The majority of people who are in the entertainment industry and who are in big business, I mean millionaires, billionaires, I should say, they all have a correlation to one another, and it's a strategic goal. It is a goal and it is an effort to push that narrative. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So let me just finish reading this and then move to Leviticus 3, so I can state my claim and make my case. So
Leviticus, or you want to stay on Exodus for right now?
you can go to Leviticus. I'll just finish up reading. It says so Masha took half of the blood, from the young bulls that they just sacrificed, took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and the other half he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant, the one that he just written down, and he read it to the people, who replied, "All that Yah has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient." Then Masha took the blood, sprinkled it on the people. This is the blood of the covenant that Yah has made with you in accordance with all of these words. So this was a peace offering. Go to Leviticus 3. This was a peace offering. This was a peace offering. I'm quelling your anger, like I'm pacifying you and your wrath or your anger, or I'm appeasing the situation. It's a peace offering. So there's different types of sacrifices. So when you're looking at the peace offering, let's take a look at it. I'm going to read from your screen, from the screen. It says, and we're in Leviticus 3. It says, if this oblation be a sacrifice of peace, then he will offer it and if he were to offer it of the herd, then the herd can be a male. So if you're talking about a herd, we're talking about cattle, because there's different types of peace offerings. You can have a peace offering from the herd or from the flock. In this case, let's just break down, what the peace offering from the herd is. It can be from a male. It can be of a male or a female. It shall be offered without blemish before Yah. He shall lay his hand upon his head of the offering and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron's sons and the priest shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar round and about. He shall offer of the sacrifice of the peace offering and offering made by fire unto Yah, the fat that covereth the innards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks and by the caul, above the liver with the kidneys, he shall take away. This is the offering that is made by fire, sweet savor unto Yah. And then it talks about the other offerings. You can have it a flock, it'll be a male or female. Then you also can have a goat or whatever as a peace offering further along. But mind you, if you are sacrificing with the sacrifices, there's types of, I'll just blatantly say rituals. There's just blatant, things that you actually have to do specifically. Do this thing specifically, then it is a burnt offering. But if you do something else, in a specific manner this way, then this is a peace offering. So this is the manner in which they kill the cattle to give a peace offering. So that lets you know right there that what Moses was doing was a peace offering unto Yah. So that's just to give you background information as to, the cattle and what type of offering it is. But when you move forward, he sprinkles the blood on the people. They don't consume it. And then he sprinkles the other half on the altar itself. Then it, of course, it's going to burn or what have you. But we are not supposed to consume it whatsoever.
And I think it's important, and it's important to note, and you let me know what you think about this. I think it's very important to note that this, even though they were doing it, this is still symbolic. but the symbolic way that the majority of us in the past were raised to understand even this type of, covenant, do this until he comes back or whatever, that stuff got all railroaded and jacked up. And yeah, you don't see the people even in this time frame pretending as if they're eating the animal, or pretending like they're eating the sacrificial lamb or drinking the blood. And yet this is something that is not only known about in this particular church of people worldwide, but it's also done in very dark corners and very dark rituals and very dark mindsets and belief systems. And these individuals all hail from those particular arenas. And I think it's important to note that, PCS.
Right. And so we're definitely not supposed to consume these things. But when he's pouring this blood on the altar, of course it's going to get burnt up, so it's going to coagulate. And then, mind you, there's a German dish called blood pudding.
Oh, do tell.
But we're not supposed to consume these things. But this is a whole entire, dish. This the actual course is actual animal blood, and we're supposed to give these unto Yah. And the reason why we're giving it unto Yah, because look, bottom line, all of these sacrifices and offerings that we're giving to whatever God that you give it to, with these rituals, you consume it, you eat it, all the meat, you eat it. All of these are food offerings, and the people are the ones who actually consume it. So we're offering it to Yah, and we're burning it on the sacrifice, because that's what we're not supposed to consume. And there's places all over Scripture that clearly tells us that we are defiling ourselves, and it is an abomination if we eat the lifeblood. You have cultures that are in direct violation, or maybe not violation. Violation, but that's not the word. That are in direct contrast to what the mandate that he has given his people to do. They like, it's a thing. It's not. It's more than a thing. It's a specialty. It's a commodity even, and they put it on, they prop it up on a shelf. But yeah, you got the blood pudding. You're not supposed to do that. You have rare, you're definitely, if you're eating anything, I'm not saying that you can't eat meat that's pink or whatever, but if it's like oozing with, the blood juice, you're in direct violation of what the scriptures has mandated his people to not do. And then you can even go to Acts, where James solidifies the laws of what the Gentiles are supposed to do when they come into the quote unquote faith. It's he specifically says, hey, keep yourself away from strange sexual activity, being sexually immoral, and do not eat strangled meat, and do not eat the lifeblood. And he mandated that for Gentiles as well. So this extends even more so from just, his people, that he has commanded his people to do. When you come into the quote unquote faith, even in the book of Acts, it is at the Council of Jerusalem, he specifically said, hey, you can't do this. Coming in, you can't do it. So I don't know if there's any rare meat lovers out here, but you gotta cook it a little longer. Because we have defiled ourselves in the face of our Creator. And I'll just read a couple that off top. Deuteronomy 12:23 says, be sure to do not eat blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. Again, that's Deuteronomy chapter 12. Genesis chapter 9 says, you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. Leviticus 17 says, if anyone from the house of Israel, Leviticus 17, verse 10. If anyone from the house of Yasharal or a foreigner living among them eats any blood, I will set my face against that person and cut him off from his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for your souls upon the altar. Upon the altar. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. So the blood is burnt on the altar. So if we're consuming the blood, inadvertently, we have made ourselves the altar, and we're going to get burnt up with the altar gets set on fire. So
Bingo.
you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Verse 12 says, therefore I say to Yasharal, none of you may eat blood, nor may any foreigner living among you eat blood. And then it goes on and on, or it continues. Verse 13, it says, and if anyone of Yasharal or foreigner living among them hunts down a wild animal or a bird that may be eaten, he must drain its blood and cover it with dirt. For the life of all flesh is its blood. Therefore, I have told Yasharal, you must not eat the blood of any living thing, because the life of all flesh is in its blood. Whoever eats it must be cut off. Then he continues and says, if any person, whether native or foreigner, who eats anything found dead or mauled by a wild beast must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until even. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, then he shall bear his own iniquity. So he's very specific, and he tells you over and over again, hey, do not eat of the lifeblood, because it is the thing. It is the, like you said, there's power in the blood, and you are inadvertently making yourself an altar to be burnt. Like, you're the one who's going to be set ablaze if you do this, and you are defiling yourself in the face of your creator. This is a clear no-no. This is a clear no-no. So the metaphor or the analogy of what they're doing, they, the power, whoever they are, these people that are doing it, that you're the cattle, and they're making sure that you're defiled, so you can be burnt, and inadvertently you end up being the sacrifice that they have set on the altar to their God.
And you know what? I love everything that you just got through saying. And I really honestly, I was having a conversation yesterday, and I was saying, I know why this is sort of mixed up now. I know why they did what they did to mix it up. And it seems like every single year, especially around this time of year, I feel as if I'm learning something on a different level. It's like things are being revealed that I once understood was supposed to be quote unquote right, but now those things are being taken away, and it's as if Yah is giving me a little bit more truth and a little bit more truth, because I think a lot of times humans have so much stuff going on that they could just take it all in one big lump. Like that passage we talked about in Ezekiel, where he just shoved the whole roll down his throat. I don't think we could take it. As a matter of fact, I know I couldn't. But my point is that I was thinking about that. I was like, that is the reason why in every lie there is a bit of truth, because yes, they do talk about the atonement in their new way of beliefs. And they do talk about a lot of that, and we all believed a lot of that stuff. We did it in rituals. We were literally following a ritual without even understanding the depths of the ritual that we were partaking in. Think about that. There was sprinkling done, just sprinkling done, that Masha did. There was a sprinkle. There was never any pretend. There was a sprinkle, but there was no pretend to drink anything. Because don't you know, just like we just got talking about, there's a load of folks who do that right now, and they drink the real stuff. That's the reason why you see cats and little children and things like that missing around Halloween and All Hallows Eve and all those different days and all those new moon dates. And you see on the back of cartons for years of milk, that's all you saw was missing children. Well, don't you know that's what this stuff is all about? Let's just put it down there. Because listen, here's the truth. I would rather say this right now and put it out there and allow people to go and study and learn and let Yah teach the truth and give them everything. I'd rather tell you than not to tell you. And I'd rather lose it because I'm telling you than to keep it and not tell you. If y'all are understanding me, if you truly follow me, then you can put a 1 in the chat if you really know what I'm talking about. I would much rather, with the minimal time that I have now to come on here, I would much rather give you the truth and let you go and take these scriptures and these topics and go learn, which is really what it is when we're supposed to fellowship together. Learn it all. Let the Ruach HaKodesh teach you. Then for me to not say nothing because I have afraid or I feared it that this one's going to take this off and take that off over there. I don't have that right now. I think it's important for us to look and see exactly all the way down to where it really, as Black Spring, where Dad used to say, I love that quote, down there where the cows can get it. I'd rather give it to you right down there where the cows can get it. And I'm going to say it right now. The reason why we have been partaking in those particular things is because we held on to Christendom and we thought that's what we were supposed to do. We held on to everything. But I'm telling you about that fork in the road that we've all talked about here before. There's that fork in the road where you were on a road and you thought you were headed the right way. And then all of a sudden you get there where you go to the right or the left. Somebody went out there and they turned that sign around and they got you going to the left and you're supposed to be headed towards the right. And that's all of us. That's the reason why I'm bringing these things to you, because this is all of us. We're still holding on to some things, but there's some revelation. There's some apocalypse, okay, which means revealing. There's some apocalypse right now where we are being awakened, and there's some revelation that's coming off. The blinders are coming off of our eyes of the stuff that we used to accept as being real. And these are the things that we have to do. But every single year, it appears to me that we're learning more and more about what we were doing and how closely associated with the enemy's camp those things were, and how easily we partook in those things not knowing. Masha sprinkled. He didn't say, here, you guys pass this around and drink it. He sprinkled. But I love the point that our brother Ronnie just drove home a few moments ago, and that was, you, the people, are now the sheeple. The people are now the cattle, which we've all said that before. All of us have talked about, cattle or sheeple, or, we've all said they look at us as not chaff, but there's another term we all use, but again, it just reiterates the fact of being sheep. All right. And so what they have done now is they've just started culling and culling and culling. And the irony is there were so many people that you and I both know right now that are not here simply because they believed something. And that thing that they believed has now got them gone. It is exhausting. I'm absolutely exhausted. Ronnie, are you here on the on another screen as well?
Yeah. You can delete the first one.
First
I got
one?
kicked out. Yeah, I got kicked out.
Okay. So you're here now. You're here now?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that, let me just tell you how this started. Because there was an old song that I was listening to, and I was like, wow, I remember these songs had so much power in them. And I started to figure out, I was like, why was it so important for them to just use the blood like this? Why is everything, and it's all so nefarious and it's dark, it really is, because of the way they shrouded it in prettiness. You see, the lie that we were taught about the way that we were taught things really were, that lie was wrapped up in a bit of truth, or you would have never swallowed it. The lie was wrapped up in a bit of truth, or you never would have swallowed it. And so what I'm here to tell you today is that is not covenant. The way that they taught us, the way that we learned from the hands of Rome, was not the covenant that Yah speaks of. It was not. Taking in blood, learning how to be desensitized with blood, learning how to alter our own DNA by way of those things. And that's what I was talking about. So many people that I know are not here anymore, who we used to back in the day, used to pray together. We used to, we thought we all believed the same thing at that time. And then, some of us decided to just stay there with their sacred cows and keep them. And others elected, like myself, to continue to ask Yah to show me who he was and show the truth, just as you all have. And there are some that are watching that aren't saying anything. And I want you to know that it's time to shake that stuff off. Shake it off. Get angry enough to go and study and search it out, and then look at all the bloodlines that only want to intermarry. But all of a sudden, you see they're thinning out the herd of humans. They're thinning them out. They only need a third. They don't need a whole bunch of people hanging out. They don't. They want it their way. They want it their way. Because if they can't get it their way, then they'll just go ahead and take you out by force. So I'm telling you honestly that the reason why there is a mystery in the blood is because they don't want you to know the truth about it. The mystery in the blood is that they've got it right in your face, and then yet they're lying about it. The mystery in the blood is that we are not to partake in any blood. We are not to do that. And there's a reason, and I'm going to show you something. The DNA that is still inside of blood. All right. The DNA, and it's not up here. I don't know why it's not. I had pulled all of this stuff here. DNA inside of the blood after people get a transfusion. I had a story earlier, and I just saw it there. Wait a minute. When I pulled that up, there it is. I'm going to look in my history and get it, because you see, things sort of always disappear as soon as you get to come telling the truth with it or sharing it with others. All of a sudden, here it goes. You can't find nothing. But I'm going to find this, because it was talking about DNA inside of the blood, and people don't know that that DNA is still there. And if there's traces of DNA, it can alter you. Because if it could, here's the thing. It can't be two things at the same time. It cannot not alter you, and then there are things that alter you. It cannot be, okay, it's not going to alter you if you take somebody else's blood that has small amounts of white blood cells in it. And then over here, oh, this can alter your this. You can get angry and it can alter your DNA. You can have a traumatic experience and it can alter your DNA.
Hence the third strand.
You see, come on now. You see, okay, that's the third strand, Ronnie says. So my thing is that we have to understand. We have to understand what was done when they took all of the truth. Here's, Ronnie, what I'd love for us to talk about, which is something that you had tapped on it about a year ago, and we looked at it and we talked about Constantine. We actually did a few things on Constantine, and that we had a few hours that we were together chatting about it. But the deal is there was a lot of stuff during Reformation that was done to reform the mind frame of the people. Do you remember?
Even before Reformation.
Before Reformation. But during the Reformation, it was like, okay, get rid of the Vandals. We don't want the Vandals. The Vandals are bad guys. Or the barbarians are bad guys. Look at what they did over here. Now let's just stick a pope in there. That'll be your leeway into God. Yeah, you can get in touch with God. Just go through this guy. Tell him everything. Spill your beans if you go to the priest. Just spill it all out. Mm-hmm. Let them all know. So what they were doing was duplicating the kingdom. They were trying to duplicate the kingdom. And that's what my point is that if you're still holding on to that stuff, you're holding on to stuff that was attempting to duplicate the kingdom. Why? Because we've already said that this is one of the worst cases of identity theft ever known to man. And it's been promulgated for centuries now. And it's probably going to keep going.
What's interesting?
Go ahead. I see you got something on the screen.
I'm just saying, like, what's interesting is that they tell you the lie, but they use the book of truth to propagate the lie. That is an excellent tactic. Actually, it's fascinating.
That has worked for a long, long, long time. So there is a mystery. The mystery is that it's in your face, and their stuff is a lie. And the truth is, go back. Listen, our Yah is not a schizophrenic. He does not say today something and then switch up tomorrow. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Yesterday, today, and forevermore. Yesterday, today, and forevermore. Yesterday, today, and forevermore. Unlike us who go back and change our minds. We may change our minds. You get your kid and they come ask you one question, and when you're nice and sober minded, you say, absolutely not, Bobby. Bobby, go away. I've said no, and my no is no. And my yes is yes. So no, Bobby. And then all of a sudden you get real tired. Bobby done came you about 5 or 6 times for the same thing. Now he gets you on the phone with your mama while your mama picking you apart for the way that you just got through canning some stuff. And she taught you to can it a different way. Now you and her going back and forth on the phone. Well, Mom, I just like to can it that way. I think it's better. And now Bobby see you at your weak point. He's going to wear you down. Well, go ahead, Bobby. Well, that's not Yah. Y'all don't tell us one thing today and switch up and give us something else tomorrow. Please stop that. Don't believe that stuff, that he doesn't change. He's the same. If he told you don't eat no blood back yonder, he ain't gonna change and tell you to go eat some blood today. He'll go back yonder and get some blood and eat it today.
So that's an excellent segue, because I want to state something that is blatant in scripture, but is not blatant, does not blare loudly from the pulpit, but it is very prevalent and very evident in scripture. But it is extremely polarizing from what we've learned versus what is stated in scripture. And are we here to polarize? I don't know if I want to do that, but what this is saying is extremely polarizing, in contrast to what we have learned. Background information, reading from Acts 15. Okay, so look, we've already discussed in Exodus and in Deuteronomy and in Genesis and in Leviticus, where it says do not eat of the lifeblood. It definitely is an abomination. And then you can give the argument, yeah, but that's Old Testament, and that's the law, and that was for his people. Things of that nature, that type of rhetoric, that type of debate. However, if you move forward into Acts 15, the mandate remains the same. So background information is Paul was angry that people were encroaching on his people group, on his church that he was forming and creating. And they were like, hey, man, you need to abide by the law of Moses and you need to get circumcised. And he was like, look, my people don't need to get circumcised. They're not of Moses. They're, a different branch. They're being grafted in or what have you. They don't have to get physically circumcised, things of that nature. So that was his argument. And there was a great debate, a great heated debate, even where people lost friendships and over these things. So he wanted to get down to the bottom of it. So what he did is he was like, you know what, let's just go to Jerusalem and hash this out. So this also lets you know another thing, which is an important side note, is that people will plant their flag in Paulinisms and die there. However, this concept right here of what's going down in Acts 15 illustrates that Paul was not the end all say all. He had to go to James to get the final say so. And whatever James, when he smacked that gavel down on the ground, on the bench, whatever he ruled was what was mandated, and he had to listen to whatever the final verdict would be, whether he liked it or not. So again, to reiterate, Paul was not the end all say all of doctrine of
But Ronnie, do you know how people have cussed me out about Paul? They will fight for Paul more than they will for the word of Yah. They will take Paul's words, and I'm telling you right now, there have been women who have come in the chat and have attacked me because I may say one thing. There have been dudes that'll do the same thing. Well, here's what I say: too bad.
In Acts, which is his claim to fame, which is his biography. I don't know.
Oh yeah, but I just wanted to make that one point, and I want to hold on that little bitty piece right there, because you take the words of Paul over the words of Yah. Think about that.
But that's what I'm saying. In his own biopic, the witness of Paul's ministry, it tells you that he had to go to James to get the final verdict. So James is the end all say all, after Mashiach, after Yahushua left the scene. The authority was passed to James. So there was a great debate about the circumcision, and he was like, okay, well, let's just go to Jerusalem and talk to James, and whatever he says, that's what we'll go with. to finalize the debate. So that's the background information. So I'm going to start at verse 5. They're at the Council of Jerusalem. It says, "But there rose up a certain sect of the Pharisees who believed saying that there was needful to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moshe." Okay, so again, that's the background information. Verse 12 says, "The multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Paul, declaring what miracles and wonders God had wrought among the Gentiles by them." So so what's the subject? The subject is, what are the Gentiles to do now that they have entered into this quote unquote faith? Verse 13, "After they had held their peace, James answered, saying, Men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simeon has declared how God at first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written." Then he quotes Isaiah. It says, "After this I will return, I will build again the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after Yah, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, says Yah, who doeth all these things. Known unto God are all the works from the beginning of the world. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble them not, which from among the Gentiles are turned to Elohim, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from these things strangled and from blood. For Moses of old time has every city that them that preach him, but being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day." So summarizing, he said, James made the verdict, hey, these people that are coming in, don't trouble them with getting circumcised. Leave that alone. Leave that alone. However, this is what I do mandate. I do mandate that every single Gentile that has turned to our Elohim, verse 20, I will write and I will say to them that they are to abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled and from blood. And then he quotes Moses. So he's coming straight from the Torah. He's coming straight from the law, and he's giving these mandates to the Gentiles when they enter into this, this way of life, that this is what they are to do. Then verse 24, I'll just read again. It says, "For as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, subverting your souls, saying you must be circumcised and keep the law, to whom we have given, to whom we gave no such commandment." So a commandment to do what? To be circumcised. They don't have to be circumcised. That's a whole different topic as well, though. But it says, "It seemed good unto us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen men unto you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul." This is the letter that he actually wrote. "Men that have hazarded their lives for the name of Yahushua." It says, "We have sent, therefore, Judas and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth. For it seemed good to the set apart spirit and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that you abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, and from all things strangled, and from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, ye shall do well, fare ye well." So again, it is extremely important that every single person that has turned to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob do not partake in any type of this bloodletting, blood ritual, blood, what have you, so on and so forth. Therefore, this is the polarizing conclusion. They teach us, and it is written in these synoptic gospels, that the Lord Jesus Christ, out of his mouth, has told us that we are to eat of his flesh and drink his blood. No law-abiding citizen of Yah will ever, 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 ever tell you to do that. And Yahushua stuck to the law like no other man ever.
He really did. He really did.
He is the law. he he
He is.
he is the law. And so he will never tell, and he only spoke to you what the Father spoke, what the Father speaks. I don't want to say that in past tense, because the Father is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I shouldn't say the Father. That's Roman.
Yes.
He's
It,
Abba. He's
yeah.
Abba.
Abba, daddy. Yep.
Yeah. So he's he would never defy his Abba. Never, ever, 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 by saying that. And this, what I just said, is extremely polarizing, because we have our whole, I ain't gonna say our whole entire concept, but a large portion of our concept of worship revolves around that, and we are to do no such thing. In the past, and even unto the Gentiles, this is forbidden. Moving forward, so Yahushua would never tell us to do that, and so that brings a whole lot of other questions. Like, well, I'll let you come up with the questions, but
No, because you know what? Here's the thing. It's like over the past few years, I feel like, I've been sort of dishing out stuff like, like little baby bird, like feeding just a little bit, because even in our personal conversations or my conversations with my brother and my other brother Lee, we'll have these conversations, and even Roy and I'll have conversations where we can really go in deep and respect the other person's view, and sort of, still sort of weigh and balance out stuff. But I really desire, again, I have to give it like a little bitty pablum. And I really wish I didn't have to do that. I really wish that I could just lay it out there, and then let us all reckon, and let us, consider these things, because to me, it really wastes a lot of time when we have to keep going back over things, and then have to keep pulling out scripture and keep proving stuff over and over again. To me, I feel like we don't have that luxury of time anymore. You know what I mean? It's like so many things are going on around us that where it's like, okay, we're not going to argue over trivial stuff, over who believes in this one or who believes in that one. Look, the only thing that I want are the words that Yah tells me, and those that I see that are following him, period. Because if I can, with the way that I study, the way that I do, and you remember listen, I'm going to say it, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but if it makes us if we have to be offended to shake the world loose, then be so offended that you shake the world loose. Even though we've been taught certain things, we hold on to them to our own detriment. And that can be a problem, especially considering what we're dealing with right now, with literal time changing the way that it is. If you haven't noticed lately,
so
if you haven't noticed some things that are jumping up, go ahead.
So what we're doing is we are taking the commandments, we're taking the traditions of men, and we're nullifying the commandments of our Elohim.
And that's what I take issue with. I take issue with that. And the deal is you know what? Don't believe anything a human, including myself, says. Take the word and study that thing. And then realize, and you remember, I'm going to say something. I don't know why people will beat you up over that sweet little guy, Paul. I don't know why they want to they will beat you upside the head, but they are willing to exchange the things that Yah said for the things that Paul said. I don't know whether it's because it's easier for us to just stay lackadaisical and not hold our feet to the fire, or whether we just don't want to do what Yah says, or whether Paul says something that seems more pleasing to us and it matches what we feel we can do right now today. In other words, we get the cliff notes from him and we feel like we can. I don't know what it is. But I would love to say, hey, at least consider that Yah is true, period. And everybody else could be wrong, including me. So all I say is study it out. Look at it. Read it. Study it. But don't study it to disagree. Study it to follow Yah. Because, see, here's the deal. They're headed to turning people into zombies and vegetables, just walking around doing whatever they say, whatever's dropped down inside their gut. And see, the thing is that the snare, the whole entire net went out and it was dropped. And it pulled up a whole bunch of my friends and a whole bunch of your friends, whole bunch of your friends. And they used to be considered believers, but they not here no more. But that net was still spread. See, they're going to catch as many as they can take out with that net. And that's the reason why I'm so adamant that I want you to understand that, yes, there is a mystery. Yes, they're after your soul. Yes, they want the DNA. Yes, they're still after the same. The agenda that they've had has not changed. From the time where they were marrying, quote unquote, marrying the daughters of men, it has not changed. What I'm saying is, if what you're dealing with is different than what Yah said, let whatever you got from Reverend Porkchop, whoever you're getting it from, leave that alone. If you can't cleave under nothing else but the truth of Yah, then go hold on to what he says. Because they're spreading a net out and they're getting in as many as they can, and they're not here no more. Your friend is not here anymore. My friends and relatives, they not here no more. But they believed what they thought they understood because they thought something was wise to them. They thought that they were wise. And so they thought that it's okay. This is the way that it should be. Oh, just pray over it and take it and you'll be okay. No, they're not okay. They're not here. So the net is going to get cast out again. And you see all of the stories that I have here. I mean, I got stories. Let me pull these stories. When I tell you I got stories dealing with all kind of stuff, dealing with eating this meat. And this one says this meat tastes just like chicken. And this tastes just like that. Why do you think they're doing that? Because that's where they're headed. They're headed to get in your okay. Like human. It tastes like chicken. They're trying to get your okay, the human. They're trying to get your okay to eat flesh. They started it with years ago when we were all talking about, listen, do you know what natural flavorings is? It's called S something, something, something. And it's this, and we could look it up when we saw it. And then we saw the administration that was enacted at that particular time say it's okay. They don't have to call it out. They can just call it natural flavorings. Oh, it's a kidney of this and it's this and it's that. No, we did that. We all knew that. But see, there's something that's lurking in the truth. There are some lies that's lurking in the truth that allow people to continue to go that direction, because a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And I'm telling you, there's something that's about to hit bigger than anything. And so we have to understand that mystery, and we have to understand why they want you to take something else. Why? Because it'll alter your DNA to where you are changing bit by bit. If they can't get you one way, they'll get you another way. I don't know who just watched. I think it's Silk. I think Diamond passed on. Diamond and Silk. The one with the short hair. I just watched her interview. Wow. That's all I'm going to say. If you know and you watched it, wow. That's all I'm going to say. Because she was talking about a whole lot of stuff that we are all sitting around here knowing, but don't nobody want to admit it. But the thing is that somebody sitting next to you can get caught up in a snare if you don't get up and tell them, hey, look here. I know we've been taking this every single year, and I know we've been still playing with the Easter eggs, but every year we say the same thing. And then every year there are less of us in the chat that remember, because there are some of us who have gone on. We say it all the time, and then some of us are gone. But nobody grabs it. Some of us do. I just want everybody to get it and only take what Yah says. That means everybody else is a liar and only he tells the truth. If you got to look at it like that, then do that. Let every man be a liar and let him have the truth. Let him be the truth. Why? Because if you do that, you don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to do anything special. But if you just do that, you'll do good. Just to keep what he said, you'll do good. You'll do really well. It ain't me. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Read it. Read it for yourself. So let me go ahead and give you this here. I want you to see this. What happens? We're going to do this one first because this is the one I really wanted you to see too. All right. So what happens to donors' DNA in a blood transfusion, taking in other blood? This is the reason why they want to alter you. Studies have shown that donor DNA in blood transfusion recipients persists for a number of days, sometimes longer, but its presence is unlikely to alter genetic testing significantly, it says. Now watch the contradiction. Red blood cells, the primary component in transfusions, have no nucleus and no DNA. Transfused blood does, however, host a significant amount of DNA containing white blood cells, or leukocytes, around 1 billion cells per unit, roughly 1 pint of blood. Even blood components that have been filtered to remove donor white cells can have millions of leukocytes per unit. So is it that it can or it can't? Is it in you or isn't it? Let's go on. Investigations have detected that donor DNA after transfusion with a process called polymerase chain reaction, which is the PCR testing, that amplifies the minuscule amounts of genetic material for detections and identification of specific genes. Studies using PCR to amplify male genes in female recipients of transfusions from male donors have demonstrated that donor DNA endures in recipients for up to 7 days. And a study of female trauma patients receiving large transfusions showed the presence of donor leukocytes for up to 1.5 years. So does it do it or don't it? Do you see what I'm telling you? You're going to get confused one way or the other. Does it or doesn't it? It just told you 2 things in one time. Taking in the blood. The blood has a mystery to it. Why is it so important? Why? Why do they want you to eat, this is my body, drink, this is my blood? But it's all the Catholics doing it. Well, Catholics being Christians. I don't mean to knock them. But if knocking them means that I'm telling you what is, then so be it. So be it. So that is what I wanted to read as it relates to the blood donors and the transfusions, that it does last. And when you ask them where you're there, because like I said, several years ago, 56/13 or something like that, my blood pressure dropped down to. I went to sleep. I thought I was asleep. Then I woke back up and I was someplace else, a totally different hospital. That's what they had to do to try to save my life. Then I had a reaction to it. Yeah, that part. So my deal is that there are some things and some habits that we're going to have to stop doing, even if it's just a symbolic placement, a symbolic placeholder. Investigate that thing. Look at and juxtapose, what did Moses do? How did Masha deal with it? How did he? Did he put it in their mouth? Did he say, pretend like you eating it? Or did he just sprinkle to do the covenant? And what type of covenant was that? We have to look at all those things. So let me go ahead and give you this one last thing before we get off here. And it is dealing with the 4 reasons. Okay, we already did with dealing with cord clamping for the babies. We already dealt with that. Okay, hold on just a second, you guys. File blood. I had some blood shown. I wanted to show you guys that, but we're not going to have time to do that. I wanted to actually show you the actual blood itself moving around, how it has life in and of itself. There's a video. You guys, I'm going to leave you guys a whole bunch of clip notes so you guys can dig around in there. Where's the one that I wanted? Brother, blood. What happens to donors? We already looked at that one. Can't find it. There was one that, is it this one? Cannibals with a Conscience. Did I show you guys that one? Did you see Cannibals with a Conscience? I think we just had that one on the screen, but let's read that. Cannibals with a Conscience. Because these movies, there were lots of movies. We got lots of movies right now, TV shows that are doing the same thing. We talked about the TV shows, though. If you guys remember, we definitely talked about some of the TV shows with one of those actresses from back in the day. Yeah, I think we did look at Cannibals with a Conscience. I'm still going to read it. I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay. A plant-based company called Oomph produced a burger they said tastes like human flesh. And I think it was my sister, Joy Trujillo, or someone, either Joy or Betty. Somebody just got through saying, how would they know what human flesh tastes like if they didn't eat it? Right on, sister. It says the company advertised the human meat plant-based burger around Sweden last year during Halloween. Isn't that a weird time to go on ahead and have it? A plant-based meat brand decided to take an unusual and cannibalistic route to sway people to try their product. European company Oomph developed the human meat plant-based burger. A burger that they say tastes just like people. How would you know that it tastes like people? For those willing to indulge in the fake human flesh, quote, we've developed this burger in no time as soon as we knew what taste and texture we were after. Co-founder Andres Linden said in a YouTube video. During Halloween last year, the company set up a food truck in Stockholm, Sweden, serving the scariest plant-based food ever. And you see how they put it right around All Hallows Eve, right there around Halloween. The company released a short advertisement complete with a sinister voiceover depicting dark scenes in a kitchen as a chef develops the human-based meat. The commercial then dares people to try it. Do you see how they're making it fun? See how they're trying to make it seem sort of, and this is from the Business Insider, from an India story, is what they did. This is from the Business Insider India. It says Lola Mullen Lowe, Madrid, the agency behind the campaign, said they wanted to convince meat lovers that plant-based products could replicate the taste of any meat. And of course, the solution was to make a tasty plant-based human meat burger. This comes from Thomas Ostilglia, the creative director at Lola Mullen Lowe. The campaign won a silver prize at Cannes. Oh, of course. Well, if Cannes said it was great, then of course, they gave him an award. So we got to follow it, right? It's a festival and an international festival for the creative marketing community. Quote, our mission is to change how people eat. Remember Soylent Green. And it is our duty to use creativity as the tool to make this change happen. This is Mr. Ackerman, the global brand leader of OMP. This is what they said. The burger itself is made with soy, mushrooms, and wheat protein, as well as plant-based fats and a mysterious spice mix. No humans were injured in the development of this product, the company said. Well, they don't have to be injured for you to take a whole boatload of, aborted fetuses and drag them over there and do that. And on that, I'm going to come on out of it. Okay, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to come on out of that with that. But my point is that there are a lot of things that are being done. Hey, Mr. Leslie. Okay. There are a lot of things that are going on. R. Jones, you snuck in here on me. Okay. There are a lot of things that are going on right now that they are trying to just familiarize everybody with this so that you run right into it. And you know what I think? I think the reason why they wanted to make us, take the blood and eat the body was because of the fact that they did not want us to understand the true real meaning behind the covenants that were cut, and how we never saw anybody ingest anything that even remotely appeared to be the blood of a human being. But now we have a whole entire belief system, and that's what we were raised to believe, that it was just symbolic. But yet, many moons ago was just symbolic too. But they still didn't pretend to do that. And even with these meats, the meat that they're talking about has a mysterious mix to it. That's a lot like what has been going on with us and why we've been electing to do that. See, here's the deal. It took, I believe this, and I could be so wrong, but just imagine this with me. Imagine if the alteration of DNA was done back then in such a way. We already know that it was the physical sexual things that were going on with the fallen and the women. But just imagine if they were literally trying to push in their DNA to alter all of man. And now, in this age, the time that we're in right now, they're doing the same thing, pushing in the DNA. And imagine, if you will, that even though some people have not necessarily ingested or taken in something that can alter their DNA, imagine just by standing by somebody else who's done it, if they have fashioned a way for you to now have some of that jump over onto you. It's just a thought. But it had to start somewhere. The acceptance of it started somewhere. It started from a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And man, thinking themselves wise, they did a little research. They made their own decision. And after they did it, now they want you to come to the funeral. I didn't even go to the funeral last week. Somebody 20 years that I've known, because they took a little bit and then they took a little bit and then they took a little bit, but it started somewhere is my point. The softening of the mind started somewhere. And it generally starts when people have the wisdom of themselves. They think they know everything. And they say, well, I did my research. And my question has always been, well, where did you go? Well, I went to their website. That's just as much, that's just as good as the government doing their own investigation with their own investigators. We investigated ourselves and we found nothing wrong. I went and I studied what they had and I found nothing wrong. But I only went to their websites. I'm not listening to you because you're a conspiracy theorist. Stop partaking in that blood ritual because there's a mystery in that. Stop partaking in that blood ritual because it is a symbolic ritual. And as you're doing it, you're desensitizing yourself and you're getting further and further and further away from truth now that you've heard this. Had it been prior to this and you'd never heard it, well, then there you go. But now you've heard it. And now you see that there was never done before. It was never, ever done before. We're about to close, but we never had that before. We never had that issue before where we were doing all of this stuff and it was being done. But as you can see, it's ironic that it all started with taking in something that didn't belong into one body and putting it into some another body and then moving over here. Now we're in this particular time. And now we literally have what used to be a chemotherapy drug or a drug that they use for cancer. And to me, that was just a testing ground. It was a testing ground to see how it would work. And that's the reason why they were able to roll it out in a bigger way. But I truly and honestly believe that if you get someplace and you start to talk to Yah about it, he'll probably share with you what was shared with me in your own way, the way that he can deal with you. What I'm saying is, if it's an opposition of what he originally said, and the only person that you could say doing it was a lot of people are going to say, well, it was said over here in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Don't tell me that if you don't do the research on where Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John came from, and if you have not researched what the term according to means and how long after these individuals were alleged to have said this stuff was the books produced. Until you can tell me about Mark and how long Mark was with Christ. Was he? These are just questions. I need everybody from now on to start to just analyze everything down to as little as you can. Just begin to analyze it and break it down and break it down and break it down even more and break it down even more and break it down even more. Why? Because there is a quest for your soul. There is a quest for your blood. There is a quest for the DNA. There is a quest for even things that come out of your body that you don't think are important. There is a quest for these things because of who we're dealing with. Just recently, when they blew those things that Ronnie and everybody went to, Ronnie went to go see them. They and out in Georgia, the Guidestones deals. There was all the stuff that they wanted to do, and there was all the things that they wanted to do in there. Now they're headed there, so of course they're gone now. But that's where they were headed, and now they're approaching swiftly. Now there'll probably be something else that'll pop up. My point is this. You need to understand that what we have taken for granted in the past, now we need to stop and pay attention to it. We need to stop and take and pay attention to it now. And that's all. So this is just a soft conversation for us to have together. Pay attention to it. Understand that there is some mystery, but the mystery is right in our faces. Right in our faces. I love you guys. Each and every one of you, I want to thank y'all for being here. Mr. Leslie, it's always good to see you. And Charlie Sigler, it's always good to see you. Joy Trujillo, R. Jones, love you, love you. David Bruce, thank you for your participation. Love you. We name what's going on. The truth, let's see. The truth sets us free from all the lies that we believe. Absolutely. And listen, you know what? Hey, Sarah, you know what the truth is for me? The truth is only what he says. And there are times where I have literally had to stop and sit down, Zach, and I've had to literally just break it down and look at it. The blood does work. The anointing, the blood does work. But it's not the way that we were taught. Leave you guys with that one. I love each and every one of you guys. Remember what we always say on any Felicia Lockhart group publication, and that is that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High. You guys take care of yourselves, and then I want you to turn around and take care of everybody else around you. Having taken care of yourself first, you'll have the availability of energy to do that. And then until you and I see one another again, I want you to continue to be blessed. You lovely, lovely humans. See you all soon. Be blessed. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day.